Hi, and welcome to the Kelley podcast, America's Social Worker Unfiltered, where every week I have hopeful, honest, and deeply human conversations with changemakers. And today, if you all know me, you know that I love a good God wink. And Tom Farley could not have come at a better time in my life. And I am so grateful he said yes. Today I have Tom Farley, who is the New York Times bestselling author of The Chris Farley Show. He is also the brother of the late Chris Farley. He's a recovery advocate and motivational speaker. And he is also the community outreach director for recovery.com. And I invited him on today because we have the holidays that are coming up that can be a tough time for people, but also because grief can be huge for people at this time of year. So we kind of have both of those things going on. And, having met Tom several years ago, the way that we're meeting today over Zoom with Voices for Recovery,
Yeah,
the Wisconsin Voices of Recovery, I thought I got to get this guy on here. So thank you.
it's been a long time coming.
It's been
Yeah,
a long time.
but right from the get-go, I knew that. Yeah, just the beautiful thing about the work that we do is we connect with people. Uh, just it just brings us in the same orbit, and it's so great. And one of the things I like to remind people is every time I either give a speech to an audience or do a podcast or whatever and tell my story, as interesting as it may be, it's like what they're really seeing is me healing, and I can't do it alone. I got to continue to talk about these things, and whether I'm talking about my family or myself or just recovery in general, I feel better every time I do that. I know you do as well. So I am very grateful for every opportunity like
Mm,
that.
Thank you. Well, and look, I mean, your last name has a huge wow factor for a lot of people because they loved your brother,
Yeah.
Chris, who was just so many words to describe him.
Yeah, well, I've got a few more actually because I had to share a bedroom with them. So, yeah. I have a few choice words for my parents for me that, insisted on that.
But that aside, I mean,
Yeah.
the disease of addiction impacts the entire family. You and I
Hmm.
are both one of five, and
Yeah.
I have a long family line of people who have been in active recovery or in active addiction, but I'm also fortunate that a lot of people have worked a really strong program and have a lot of recovery under their belt as well. And it has been a ripple effect. So I'm curious if we can start there for you.
Yeah.
How has addiction impacted your life from way back when?
It really hasn't actually. I'm kidding. Well, I grew up in Wisconsin. Should we start there? Um, So it's, in very, being Irish and living in Wisconsin, I grew up in these very normative and accepted kind of communities where drinking was what you did and it was okay. And so, I kind of built up this, belief in that there's nothing wrong with the way we um, use alcohol and and manage our emotions that way.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, again, and when somebody comes along, as Chris did in my family, that has a more of an acute kind of a issue with whatever substance.
Mhm.
Um, it was as much as we wanted to be a family and help them, uh, we we made it very much Chris's problem because we didn't want to be honest about our own, what our role was in, and so whereas we could have probably helped Chris a lot more, we held back because we were fear about being honest about that, about how this was affecting all of us, and so we just made it Chris's problem.
Hmm.
to solve, and we had no issues there. Um,
What would you have done differently? Because you said that to me. Tom, you said,
yeah.
I've learned a lot since I wrote that book.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Um, well, what's funny is, all my brothers, when they went into their career in comedy, they came to their profession through Second City,
Hmm.
through improv and through this concept of the ensemble where everyone kind of, is together and there's acceptance and trust.
Yeah.
And yet Chris's first ensemble, us as family, we didn't act like one very much. There wasn't a real acceptance and trust, um, and so I think I would have, and I learned when I started to speak about addiction, when going into schools, even I did it the only way I knew how. It was how I was taught by my brothers, how to communicate, how to build these ensembles, how to feel a sense of belonging, that I thought, that I immediately saw as a benefit of improv. And so I started to build my kind of advocacy on that concept. And I wish I could have gone back and say to all my brothers, like, you're the experts here. Like, you know this ensemble stuff. Help us. Like, let's build this in our own
Uh,
family.
hmm.
It
Hmm.
would have been amazing.
Yeah. But you have people in family dynamics who minimize, right?
Oh,
The use. There are a lot of secrets that go on.
yeah. Oh, well, again, and a lot of that, there were so many things in place, I guess, in society that allowed for that to happen. Allowed to that you can maintain because you had certain kind of structures and whatever.
Yeah.
It's just, for our generations and those that followed, that life isn't like that anymore. So the playbook that my parents were given
Hmm.
didn't apply anymore. You know, you had these support structures in place that you could, hide some of these things, but like those were gone, and now you have to rely on the people around you. You have to build an ensemble
Hmm.
if you to continue that. Um, we had to develop a whole new playbook, and that was something difficult for my parents because they had their playbook, and they were just going to continue to refer to that. And one of the first things, well, not actually, it wasn't the first thing. It took me a long time to see that and give them, um, to forgive them,
Hmm.
and they because they didn't have the tools. you
Right.
know
Right.
that's not. Um, and I learned this again writing my book, and all this work I've done with my relationship with Chris is, and thankfully so, I've learned to separate the addicted brother from the brother that I love, because you know all these addictions I could forgive or understand, I could study, but it left this brother that I love intact.
Mm.
When you put them all together, all regrets or resentments, it's not fair to the individual to pile them all in. So when you separate them out, I can regret certain things I could have done to help Chris over here. But this brother that I love, I get, and I've tried to do that with other members of my family, particularly my parents,
Hmm.
and my father, who was, a lifelong drinker. I'm like, okay, yeah, but he was always also somebody that I loved deeply, but his alcohol, issues were, I need to separate that if I,
Sure. Sure.
if I need to retain this relationship with a very important person in my life.
Right, right. Oh, I love that. That's a tool people can use when they
Yeah,
think about their relationship with people that they have been with who have either continue to be in an addiction state, or who, are in recovery, or who have died like Chris with from an accidental overdose. And, I guess I have your book, and I encourage people to read it. I felt like I was sitting down with your whole family, and then all of these other people who worked with Chris retelling their
yeah.
stories, and it's just fabulous.
Well, what I love, and I say this a lot, is I love that I did do that. If it was just my memories of Chris, it would have been a whole different story. I'm like, it would have been like, oh, this guy's got issues with his brother. But I was able to see, you know, people told their version of Chris, through, who Chris was for them, and it was this. They knew Chris better than I did, because I just had this
Uh-huh.
narrow vision, and I like to say I have a better relationship with him now than I ever did when he was alive because of, being able to hear other people's stories of Chris and
Mhm.
um, uh, see him in a greater light, and
Uh-huh.
so
Yeah.
grateful, very grateful for that.
And serendipitous that we scheduled this 28 years next week, December 18th,
Yeah,
is when your brother died. And I know your father died a couple years after him.
about almost a year. Yeah, yeah, it
How
was.
was that grief for
Well,
you?
it's interesting. Is both my dad and Chris were very sick, for a long time. So there was always kind of this cloud over us, and we're worried about their health.
Yeah.
So, it was no surprise, even though it was horrible to lose it's always horrible to lose somebody. But, uh, it's interesting with Chris, you know, all those 28, 29 years, like I've always been around people telling stories and keeping him alive.
Yeah.
And yet most people's relationship with losing somebody is a lot like my father's. After 6 months, people stopped talking about,
Wow.
oh, remember when your dad did this, or I loved about your dad. And I would love those stories, but stories that I get every day with Chris. People
Mhm.
always come up to, oh man, God, your brother was so funny, he did this. I want that for my father too, but I don't. And most of us don't.
Yeah.
And so it feels like Dad's been gone a lot longer than Chris.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
And okay, so then dad died a year later, which was kind of, I hate to say predictable, but people were saying from what I read in the book, like
Yeah,
he was really overweight at that time. He was,
yeah. And but also there was this he always thought he could save Chris. He didn't understand, what Chris was going through. He thought it was a behavior, as
yeah,
they were taught for generations. It was a behavior that needs to be corrected, or, he's just got a drinking problem. He didn't understand the whole, substance use and things
yeah,
like that. And when that reality, like he couldn't hide from it anymore, it just produced a very sad person. But he also, the last year of his life, didn't drink either, uh,
unbelievable.
which was a gift. As sad as we saw him,
Uh-huh.
and just him just fading away. Um,
Mm,
Man, it was just so great to see him. Not without that burden.
yeah. So he didn't pick up to till
Yeah.
his death. And you had another brother who was in recovery, right? Who was working with Chris, or his assistant.
Well, both my brothers, Kevin and Johnny, they're both, in the business.
You're
Uh,
all in the business of comedy.
and well, no, we all need attention. We all need attention is what it is. Uh,
Well, it's a
whatever,
good way to get attention.
whatever, format that takes place, for me, it's business. I disrupt meetings. They, make people laugh. But, uh,
They were both working with him at some point.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they were both out in California with him. And they were both in Chicago that last week. I wasn't there, but
Hmm.
uh, yeah. So, and they're not drinking, which is a good first step for the Farleys. And I went down that road too, thinking that was kind of all I needed to do.
Hmm.
I don't think they're in recovery because I'm very open about my recovery and being in recovery, and we would have those conversations, and we would help each other heal that way. But um, I'm glad they're not like saddled with this uh, burden of alcohol anymore. But I can't stress enough that being sober and being in recovery are not the same thing.
Thank you. I've
Yeah.
been saying this, and to hear you say it has so
Oh,
much more credibility than me because
yeah.
I am a broken record in saying that, that just because you don't drink doesn't mean you're working a program of recovery. You
Oh.
may be abstaining from alcohol, but that
Yeah,
might be.
well, I did that. I had after Chris died, I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do this. And I would put together 4 or 5 years, 5 years here, and then something like either something stressful would happen, finances or work wasn't going
Yeah.
well, yeah, or even on the plus side. I remember one year after 5 years of sobriety being at an Irish fest on March 17th, going like, I can have one Guinness. I've been sober for 5 years. I've got this. And I had that one Guinness, and then all of a sudden, like within this incredible short period of time, I'm back on varsity. I'm on starting. I'm starting again. I'm like, how did this? With more years of then not being sober.
Yeah.
But even when I was sober, the train it didn't stop the train wrecks from happening. It didn't stop because I wasn't in recovery. I wasn't, being rigorously honest or, grateful or humble. I
Hmm.
was being kind of those things,
Mm.
you know?
Hmm.
So, yeah, no, and again, for me, what was amazing to me was I went in thinking, well, I just need to stop drinking. And just like Chris and our family, I could always point to somebody. I would go to a meeting and I would always point to somebody and say, well, like, that person drinks more than me. Like I guess I'm not that bad. And we
Well,
did
when
that
you have
with
Chris
Chris.
as a barometer,
Yeah, like, well, we're not that bad, so I guess we're okay.
right.
Like we're
Not that
not
bad.
even
Right.
close. Yeah. So that was my barometer. And that now, when I finally came, embraced recovery 7 years ago, I started listening to not how much somebody was sharing about how much they drink. I would like, oh, I had broken relationships like that person. I had, job loss like that person. And, drinking had nothing to do with my recovery. I just knew that I needed the clarity of sobriety to do all these things that I do in recovery. I have to be sober. There's
Hmm.
because once I pick up one drink, the race is on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just read a quote today that one is too many and 100's not enough.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah. Totally. Well, yeah. I mean, it's.
That you can
Um,
relate to that.
Oh yeah, no, it's just and you can always find people that like, yeah, and you go from one group goes to bed and you find the next person and they're your best friends in the world.
Yeah.
You don't even know them, but like, oh, I love you guys.
And how do you do, because you have children, how do you educate them, or how did you educate them, when they were experimenting and they know family history and the disease of alcoholism.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, when they were going through all of this, they saw me most of my adult life when I was a parent. They saw me sober,
Yeah.
but yet I was still being this manic person. But they didn't see me drink a lot. Um, which sent a message, I think, to them that drinking was bad because I was just
Sure.
trying to be sober. And I think that was the wrong message, you
Okay.
know.
Hmm.
Um, and the focus and the attention was on that. And yet they were all having, you know, mental health issues as teenagers do. And,
Yeah.
like I should have been talking that I didn't know that as much as I do now, and I was aware like
Hmm.
that. My oldest daughter would come home from high school and go right up to her room, slam the door, and stay there till breakfast the next morning. I'm like, you know,
Hmm.
um, I guess that's what teenagers do, but I now I know at least what conversations I have, and I think
Sure.
that's the thing. Know what conversations. If you know something isn't right or somebody isn't being or their personality changes
Hmm.
overnight or
Hmm.
over time, like there something driving that. And um you know I, and again, just being a parent, like um this is territory where you can't solve it. You can't don't try to, especially for a father or male,
Hmm.
but that is always trying to, problem solve. Like just listen. That whole thing of just, um
Hmm.
and as much as you want to be a parent and this show this this rock of safety that you want to be as a parent. um you know your kids also want um uh honesty. They want you know a certain amount of vulnerability,
Hmm.
to showcase that, and and humbleness. And I think that's bringing that into the equation is can deliver a lot.
Hmm.
um
Absolutely.
yeah, especially like, yeah. And again, the gratitude, making amends, humble, like that puts you in this place of caring about that other person and wanting to listen
Hmm.
rather than try to, listen to solve something. Just,
Yeah.
I think that puts you in a place where they need you to be.
And what is your spirituality and higher power like now? I mean, you grew up
Oh,
Irish
Kat.
Catholic,
Oh
went to
my gosh.
Georgetown,
I went I
priest
went into
friends.
oh my gosh. I went into recovery in the 12 steps thinking, this is great. I only have to learn 11. I already got one. I already got the one. Like,
You
yeah,
already
I'm
had a
Catholic. I
relationship with
already got
God, so you're like,
I got the
check.
God thing. Um, and uh, it's funny, this being in Madison, Wisconsin, there's always somebody like, well, my higher power is nature and the
Uh-huh.
sky. And I'd be like, no, you're wrong, early on. And then I just started to embrace the concept of a higher power, which has nothing to do with my God or my religion. And,
Uh-huh.
it was interesting is um, the changes when I look at how I was brought up as a Catholic. When I prayed for things like God, give me a better job, give me
Yeah. Yeah.
help me, give me this, give me that, help my kids, listen to me, whatever. In recovery, in this higher power, um, what I prayed for was, take this. I can't do this alone. Just please take this. Yeah, I took the ego was completely gone.
Mm. Yeah.
And so and that has kind of helped me kind of, you know and again, the spirituality, what's beautiful about recovery is, um, even though, every Sunday I'm in this same building with these people that are my community, like, I, there still is nothing close to the sense of belonging I get when I can walk into any meeting anywhere in the world,
Hmm.
and feel this connection
Hmm.
to other human beings that I never felt in my religion. My faith gives me a lot of things, but that connection, you know, especially, people don't think the same way I do, or
Hmm.
have different, issues or whatever it is.
Hmm.
Like, there's
Hmm.
still that undeniable sense of belonging, that I get, that I never felt anywhere else. So
Likewise,
that
I share that with
that
you.
that that's the difference between religion and spirituality, is
And
that
the difference
human.
between sober and recovery as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Hmm.
that human connection.
Yeah.
That yeah.
So, as people prepare for the holidays, this episode is dropping tomorrow, and you think about your own family of origin and how you all used to celebrate, and now several people have passed since.
Yeah.
How do you honor them? How do you honor Chris? How do you honor your dad, your mom? Like, do you all get together still over the holidays as extended family?
No, I mean, that's, as I said, everyone's kind of doing their own thing. It's just, my kids are all kind of grown up and they stay where they are. I got two daughters in New York, one son in LA, and as much as they'd love to come back to
Mhm.
Wisconsin, yeah, it's just, it's
Yeah.
kind of it's kind of sad. It's just like three of us, my sister, my mom, and I. But and it's funny, we don't talk about Chris. There's still a lot in my family that they they haven't healed like I have, and that's unfortunate. Uh, when I talk about, and again, I don't talk about Chris as much anymore as I talk about myself. And
Yeah.
sometimes I
Yeah.
bring Chris in, but I talk about my healing, my play, and
Hmm.
it's just like, they don't know that level of healing. And um, so, but so I don't get it from my family. I get other things, but um, I can find that other places. That's the beauty
Yeah.
of recovery. Yeah.
And in a silent room with yourself and lighting a candle and reflecting or
Oh
praying
yeah, like,
or talking.
yeah, stuff I never did
Yeah. Okay.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, um, like, all the voices in my head are just brought down to it's just me and my high power. Like, yeah, it's so
Wow.
peaceful, so peaceful.
Peaceful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you for all the work that you've been doing and you're sharing your story and your advocacy work. And, the last thing I want to talk about is just humor, because I think that sometimes people think that humor is a protective mechanism from getting under something deeper. Have
Oh,
you?
it is such a coping mechanism in my family. It's funny when the bell kind of hit the first time, when I realized that this coping mechanism of humor for us, turned into a trauma, because we didn't know any other emotion. Everything was, we laughed. If somebody
Yeah.
was stressed out in my family, we laughed. Somebody was, angry, we laughed. We still kind of do. But or if anyone was feeling joy, the positive end of the emotional scale, we laughed. We
Hmm.
diminished that too. We
Mm.
just, it was our safety place, and we never developed other emotions that enable us to connect with people, or have empathy for what other people around us are going through. And so, it's, you know it has like we got really good at it. All my brothers made a nice little career out of it, but um, the other side, we just didn't know how to connect. And
Mhm.
one of my favorite quotes from Maya Angelou is that only equals laugh with each other. If there's an imbalance, if you're laughing at yourself or you're laughing at somebody else, that's an imbalance, and that it doesn't really give you the full benefit of the healing effects of humor and
I love
laughter.
that. I've never heard that
Isn't
before.
that great?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah. Only two people that are equal can
Mhm.
truly
Sure,
laugh.
sure.
Yeah.
So what's on your bucket list?
Um, oh my
Living a
God.
life in recovery, working for recovery.com.
I know it's just I love that all the stuff that kind of talked about everything from just working for this amazing company in recovery, but based in Madison, Wisconsin. I always talk about this really amazing Wisconsin DNA that we don't fully lean into. We love to be this Wisconsin nice surface level, but like, no, the real it's down there, waiting for you if you want to, if you just get through the fear, that of being vulnerable gets you, but then all of a sudden, yeah. So I love it's funny that I love being this motivational speaker,
Mhm.
which is one of my brother's main characters they created. Like I'm being it.
You really are.
It's crazy. Yeah. You
Full
know,
circle moment.
well, it's funny that that's my authentic self. That was Chris's character, but that's become
That's
my
you.
authentic self. And I think what's really interesting is when it dawned on me that here I had this brother known for characters, and yet he really was just being himself. Like
Uh-huh.
every character you didn't see the character, you saw Chris,
Yeah, right, right,
you
right.
know.
Uh-huh.
And here I was being this person trying to create this character, build this like person who I thought the world wanted me to be or I needed to be, and I
Mhm.
was struggling. And all Chris was telling me like, Tommy, be yourself. And it wasn't until I embraced that authentic and stopped, being this person for everyone else,
Mhm.
and just being my true authentic self. Everything opened up for me, and again, it's funny that part of that is being, honest and grateful and vulnerable in front of all these people, and now I'm this
Yeah.
motivational speaker, just being my authentic self. I'm doing exactly what Chris did. I
And
just, I
Chris
just,
Chris
I
is
just get
cracking
paid a
up.
lot. I just get paid a lot less. That's all.
Well, thank you so much for being here and
Yeah,
sharing a
yeah.
piece of your story. Like I said, we could talk for days on this topic, and people, I'll put the link in the show notes to how they can find you on LinkedIn and Instagram.
And yeah, and find, there's so many resources on our site, recovery.com. Like what I love about this kind of this newer generations, that are so resilient and
Hmm.
and have such advocacy kind of, in their blood. Like if you have, whether it's substance use or mental health issues, own it. Understand it. Be uh, have some agency about this, and don't ask your friends, don't go online, and find a reputable source.
Hmm.
And that's what we're trying to do with recovery.com, is not only help you find treatment if you need it, but more than that, it's just know that you're not alone, and know what you know
Hmm.
you know be heard, understand.
Yeah. And
So,
educate. I mean,
and
there
educate.
you
Well, yeah.
also have recovery.com has two podcasts out, and the website is so user friendly. So it's a great landing spot for people to navigate,
Yeah.
next. So
Yeah, it's It's a great, it's wonderful. So you're part of that too. Thank you for, talking about these issues and just, that's really the whole thing is just showing people that it's okay to talk about these things and the connection you find once you do.
Yeah,
It's great.
absolutely. Thank you. And to all those listening, remember to tap into your passion and be the change you wish to see in the world, in your community, or in your family, or in yourself. Have a great day.